All right, so it says I'm live, but am I live? Let's find out. There we go. All right, so here we are with another G.I. Joe classified unboxing, and this is Cobra Commander with combat armor. I almost, when I was doing the title of the episode, put battle armor Cobra Commander, but I suppose that's more of a He-Man thing than a GI Joe thing. But in case you couldn't tell, this is one I got from Amazon. Oh, I've got a funny story to tell about Amazon once I get to my Christmas episode. So Amazon never stop letting me down. It's like I don't know what's been up with you lately, but go ahead and cut the tape on there while I'm getting on it. So we got a picture of Cobra Commander standing outside of what looks to be some kind of ancient South American temple or something like that. Got a little iguana down at his feet. Got a close-up picture of the iguana and his backpack. And his pose in this picture is not identical to, but very similar to the pose that Cobra Commander had on the packaging for the original vintage version of the combat armor Cobra Commander. Now, oh yeah, and we might as well get a shot of the portrait on the side. This is figure 168 in the G.I. Joe Classified series. For fans of the comic book of G.I. Joe, such as myself, we associate this armor less with the real Cobra Commander, although he did wear it very briefly, and more with the imposter, Fred Seven, the usurper, the guy who attempted to murder the real Cobra Commander and take his place, but was not ultimately successful. He was able to, impersonate the commander for a bit, but pretty much anybody who had like two brain cells rubbed together was able to figure out, yeah, you're not really Cobra Commander. So at that time, the real Cobra Commander had kind of disappeared, and Serpentor had stepped up and basically taken over the Cobra organization, and he kind of pushed the Baroness to the side, and she wasn't really very happy about this. So when this guy showed up claiming to be the real Cobra Commander, Zartan, everybody's suspicious of it, like you would be. Serpentor is suspicious of it from the very beginning. And Zartan has the bright idea, hey, Baroness knows what Cobra Commander really looks like. Send her over there to see this guy unmask, and she can tell us if he's the real deal or not. And Serpentor is like, yeah, hey, that's a good idea. Let's do that. So Baroness and Fred go into the privacy of the helicopter he just arrived in, and Fred takes off his mask and says, well, I guess the jig is up. And Baroness is like, oh, don't be silly, put that thing back on, and then comes out and says, yep, he's the real Cobra Commander. So so she was basically running Cobra using Fred as a proxy for a while, and I think she was manipulating him with certain skills that they don't really talk about in code approved comics. I suspect that was the case. Bobby Wald says, I wish they didn't added an optional Fred 7 head with this figure. I'm using the Flash Thompson Agent Venom head. Well, that's a good choice for that. Yeah, that's actually kind of what I'm getting to. So yeah, Fred ran Cobra for a while, and there was an issue where Zartan confronted him, and you revealed, yeah, I know you're not the real Cobra Commander. And there was a point where Dr. Mindbender confronted him and said, yeah, I know you're not the real Cobra Commander, but I like that I get some power by supporting you and pretending like you're the real one. So that's cool. Basically it was like that. Fred was not quite as successful at impersonating the commander as he would have liked, but thanks to the greed and hunger for power that a lot of his fellow Cobras possessed, yeah, it led to him being able to fill that role for a while, even if most of them knew he wasn't the real deal. So that eventually led to the Cobra Civil War, and that was won rather decisively when Zartan shot Serpentor in an arrow with an arrow in the eye, and killed him, at least for a little bit. It's comics. Nobody stays dead forever. Even in G.I. Joe, where Larry Hama does not really like to resurrect characters, he still sometimes resurrects characters, you know. Sometimes you just come up with a story that's too good and you got to bring a character back. Sometimes Hasbro just says, oh, by the way, we're making another Cobra Commander action figure and we're bringing him back. So yeah, eventually the real Cobra Commander did come back, and Fred wound up being one of the guys in the landlocked freighter that Cobra Commander buried under, you know, tons of rock and lava and an explosion, you know. So but you know, most of these guys survived, and Fred was one of the ones who survived that, but not for long, because he was basically the first one that everybody in that landlocked freighter turned on. So I have to say, like, he probably died really early into that that turmoil on the landlocked freighter, but in the long run, it turned out to be a mercy. That's all I'm going to say about that for now. But on the comic book and the cartoons, they're two completely different things. And on the cartoon series, we had a completely different story behind this this Cobra Commander figure. And while I might be more of a fan of the cartoon, and I'm more of a fan of the comic book, and I'm certainly more of a fan of the comic book than the DIC, the Deke cartoon. Some people call that company Dick, but I'm pretty sure it's actually pronounced Deke. I'm certainly more of a fan of the comic than the Deke animated stuff, and I think most people would agree with me on that. But let's go ahead and get him opened up. This is definitely supposed to be Cobra Commander as he appeared on the Deke miniseries, particularly Operation Dragonfire. I'll get into that in a minute. But he wore this outfit for a good portion of the time on Deke. Even though, like, eventually they did come up with the talking battle commander Cobra Commander figure, which had basically the classic uniform. So he went back to wearing that. So let's go ahead and talk about his accessories. He comes with this submachine gun, and I don't believe that this is based on any real life sort of submachine gun. You might call it more of a machine pistol, but whatever it is, I'm pretty sure that this is a Hasbro original. They designed this themselves. It does look kind of somewhat like God, what was the name of that gun? Jack Burton uses it. Little mini submachine gun. You know the one I'm talking about. I don't remember the name of it right now. But it does look kind of vaguely like that gun. And then we got some extra hands. And one of those is a pointing hand. And you know I like pointing hands. So here we go with that. So we can recreate the picture from the original action figure package where he's pointing out at you. And then there is a solid fist hand, which I don't think I'll get a whole lot of use out of, but it's nice that it's there. You know, I always say anytime I have one of these solid fist hands, I don't really use solid fist hands very much. But, you know, I'm not going to complain that there's a solid fist hand. So there is the solid fist hand for the left hand, and there is also one for the right hand. And then both the hands that are on the figure in the package are gripping hands, and those are probably the ones I'm going to use most of the time. And then we got this backpack. And when I was a kid, I used to pretend like this backpack was a jetpack because I like jetpacks. And, you know, he's got fancy new battle armor. It might as well have a jetpack on it. And then this one looks very much to me like the head that came with that original vintage figure. You can see his eyes in there with the Caucasian flesh around them. And it looks like he has brown eyes. So this is definitely the original Cobra Commander, because the original Cobra Commander had brown eyes. Fred had blue eyes. Nobody noticed that in all of Cobra. No, nobody pointed out this guy had blue eyes. Sometimes I see when somebody's cosplaying as Cobra Commander, even like the classic version with the hood and everything, they'll have these contact lenses in there with these very blue eyes, and like almost inhumanly blue eyes, almost to the point where it looks creepy. And I've got to say, I actually like that because I know in the comic book, Cobra Commander had brown eyes. So he would, if he did have blue eyes, it'd be because he was wearing contacts. So anyway, we got this iguana dude, and one very pleasant surprise that I've noticed about this is the iguana is actually articulated. So these arms and legs actually move. How about that? And you might be wondering why Cobra Commander comes with an iguana. Well, that's one of the reasons that I say that this is unambiguously supposed to be the Deke version of Cobra Commander, especially specifically from the Operation Dragonfire miniseries. We can get a closer look at the iguana. Is that in that one, basically some of the Cobras aren't really happy with Serpentor's leadership, and they've managed to find, this is a direct follow-up to the G.I. Joe animated movie. They managed to find Cobra Commander in his snake form and somewhat restore some humanity to him. You know, like, let's be honest, Cobra Commander never had a whole lot of humanity, even when he was a human. But yeah, so they turned Cobra Commander at least back into a humanoid. We'll talk more about that later. And he manages to use that device to devolve Serpentor into an iguana. Why an iguana? Why not a snake? It seems to me like it would be more fitting for him to transform Serpentor into a snake, since he himself was transformed into a snake. And, you know, Cobra and all that. But, you know, it's Deke, so what do you expect? Now, they do have like a little bit of yellow overspray down the sides of the iguana, and you see some black stripes there. But his arms, front legs, what do you want to call those? Those are entirely painted in that sort of greenish yellow color. So it almost looks like he has shirt sleeves or something. And then the legs are entirely colored in green. So they don't have any kind of the overspray on there at all, which is a little disappointing. And honestly, I kind of feel like the overspray really should have been down the belly of the beast. I think that would have looked better than painting it down the sides. But whatever. It's still a nice little addition. And it's a nice little nod to the animated episode for those of us who have actually seen it. So I'll go ahead and set Serpentor aside for now. And we can go ahead and get to Cobra Commander himself. Now, I didn't really pay that much attention. So let's see. On the package, he definitely has human eyes. So you can see the Caucasian skin around the eyes and the brown eyes. And on the figure in the package, if you look at his face, he's got these reptilian eyes and kind of scaly, kind of olive, sort of tan skin around the eyes. And that's because when they returned him to his quote-unquote human form, in that he was still kind of reptilian. So you'd still kind of see the snake-like skin around the eyes and those reptilian eyes. Now, on the regular series, for the whole thing to evolve, maybe he shed his reptilian skin and he had human Caucasian skin underneath again once he shed through that or whatever. But eventually he went back to being just normal human looking guy. And but on the miniseries he did have this kind of reptilian look. So Bobby Wald earlier had said he wished that this had come with a Fred head, and I totally agree with that. I think that that would have been a nice addition to have. I would have liked to have had a Fred head to come with this to acknowledge the comic book, but I don't think that was the intention of this figure. I think when they made this figure, they were intending to do it as full on an homage to that Deke animated appearance. So I think that's why we did not get a Fred head with this. But as Bobby also points out, there are options where we can swap this head out with another head to use as Fred. So it's the great thing about a figure like this, where we can pop the head off and replace it with whatever head we want to. So let's go ahead, and I'll go ahead and put the more human looking head on there. Make sure it's on there all the way. This is really seems we want to be popping, probably because it's a virgin head, and it just needs to be planted on there. So there he is with his more human head. And like I said, the real Cobra Commander did wear this outfit very briefly in the comic book. I think what would be really cool is to do a reissue of this figure sometime down the line, and not only add in the Fred 7 head as Fred Heaven, as Bobby Wald suggests, which I think us fans of the comic book, we would really enjoy that, really appreciate that. But also give us like the unmasked Cobra Commander with his disguise, with his little John Lennon glasses and his ponytail and his Fu Manchu mustache and his beret. I think that would be a cool addition to this. Oh, and since I have this pointing hand, I can have him pointing at Raptor to like recreate my favorite scene with Raptor. It's just like, I had it up to here with weirdos in funny outfits. What do you sleep in? A nest? So they did take some liberties with this guy. So he's got some changes to the armor. It does seem like they are designs that I would call improvements to the original design, and some that are just different. So like the armor on the 80s just overall had kind of like more of a blocky look to it, especially like the arms and the shoulders and everything like that. And you can see this one's a little more streamlined, and the armor actually covers up a little bit more. This breastplate actually looks like a little bit more functional as a breastplate than the one that the original figure had, which kind of just looked like they just had like this little metal piece on there as a design element. And you can see that the armor on the arms and legs is much sleeker and much less blocky than the 80s version was. And I always kind of felt like that this version of Cobra Commander visually was inspired somewhat by Doctor Doom. And I figured Darth Vader was probably another bit of an influence. Like, you can almost look at this head and imagine this as if somebody was like, well, we can make him look kind of like Darth Vader or like Doctor Doom. Kind of make his helmet like a cross between Vader and Doom. Like, it's got a little bit of that face of Doctor Doom in there. You can see at least like down to the nose. But it's got that same sort of thing where the helmet kind of flares out, almost like a samurai helmet. Kind of like how Darth Vader's helmet does. And then the actual mouthpiece underneath the nose, to me, like, it looks almost kind of like a chimpanzee to me a little bit. But then you've got that breather piece stuck in here. And this does not seem to be removable. This seems to be pretty solidly glued in. The ironic thing is, I think that this hose is actually thinner than the hose that came with the original 80s, the vintage Cobra Commander figure. Like, it's longer, obviously, it's a bigger head, but it's not quite as thick as that hose. And you can see it kind of bends more up this way, whereas the old one went all the way down to the bottom of the helmet and kind of wrapped around the bottom of the helmet. Now, on the original figure, this piece was not glued in, and that means it fell out rather easily. And for those of us playing with our Cobra Commander, out in the backyard or on the school playground or in our mom's shag carpeting, this piece would disappear rather easily. And then, unfortunately, you were left with this Cobra Commander with like this big hole where the air, like where the mouthpiece was supposed to go, and he looked kind of derpy. He looked kind of like this. That's what Cobra Commander looked like afterwards. So like this figure like was kind of ruined if you didn't have that air hose to attach in here. But thankfully Hasbro with this one was intelligent enough to glue it in there permanently. So this thing is not going to fall out on you accidentally. And if you do remove it, you're going to have to put some actual effort into removing it. So yeah, that's good. And he's still got the hose over here at the side. I don't know what this hose does. Is it a colostomy bag? I have no idea. But he's still got that hose over there. He's still got the Cobra belt buckle. His belt is still that kind of dark burgundy color. The blue is a little bit darker on this one, and I think it's a little bit closer to the classic Cobra Commander blue. Do I still have Cobra Commander over here anywhere? Or did I put him away? Because I did have Cobra Commander over here on the desk for the longest time, but I got like a whole stack of action figures here that I keep moving around. Let's see, Man-Faces, and She-Ra, and Catwoman, and Thunder Punch He-Man, my vintage Thunder Punch He-Man. Yeah, I don't think he's over here anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, the vintage Cobra Commander figure was a little more on the teal side than this. It wasn't quite as dark. I do kind of feel like this is more in line with what we think of as Cobra Commander's blue, like at least on the vintage figure. I think that the classified version of Cobra Commander is a little bit darker than this. But like I said, I don't think I have him over here currently. So I'll just have to find him later and take some pictures. So yeah, and I want to say that the plate on the back was not as big as that and didn't have this piece down the spine. But I like the improvements. I'm going to call them improvements. I like the changes that they've made to Cobra Commander's armor. I do feel like for the most part they are improvements. And I think he looks really good. So and look at the way like these shoulders kind of flare up here, where he has these kind of pieces here. I like that, almost kind of like a medieval knight or something like that. So I always liked this design of Cobra Commander. And I know it's not everybody's favorite design for Cobra Commander. And hey, it's not my favorite design for Cobra Commander. But it is a design that I like. So I'm glad to have it represented in action, in classified form. I think that that's a really cool thing to have. Also, I want to point out that later on in the comics, Cobra Commander had a more sleek battle armor that Dr. Mindbender designed for him. And that version of the battle armor was sleek enough he could actually wear it under his regular Cobra Commander uniform. So then this particular design became obsolete. They didn't really need it anymore. So you don't really see this one as often in the comics anymore at all. But like I said, in the comics, this became more associated with Fred 7 than it did the true Cobra Commander. So he probably didn't want to wear this suit anymore anyway. After all, it was designed by that traitor. So Bobby Wald says there's an episode of the DIC series that you can watch on Tubi called No Zone, where that version of Cobra Commander was being flipped off by Zarana as she was retreating. That's my girl. I guess they snuck that one by the censors, huh? So let's go ahead and talk about the articulation on this guy. Cobra Commander can't actually look up that far. He can only look up about that far. So not that impressive as far as that goes. He can look down about that far. Tilt his head kind of quickly from side to side. Rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around the shoulders. But you do have the shoulder armor here is attached into the actual torso rather than the arms. So you're going to have to contend with that when you do that. But it does rotate all the way around. He's got that kind of butterfly joint. So that moves back and forth like so. He's got a bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all the way around. We got double jointed elbows, That's about the range of motion we get at the elbows. And then the wrists rotate all the way around, and the right wrist seems to have a vertical hinge, which moves up and down like so. And the left wrist, that one, where's the hinge? I can't even see the hinge on this. It also seems to have a vertical hinge. So he's got two vertical hinges on both of his gripping hands. The pointing hand has a horizontal hinge on it. And let's see, the fists both have horizontal hinges on them. So that's how that works. He's got this kind of, he doesn't have an ab crunch. He has that kind of joint where it's almost like a 25th anniversary figure where he can move from side to side like that, back like that, forward like that. And then he's got that kind of articulation at the hips that's almost like a 1980s G.I. Joe, but it's not an O-ring, it's a ball in a socket, but it does still move in a similar way. So it's like the best of both worlds. He's like a 25th anniversary and a vintage figure combined. So then, of course, he can rotate all the way around where the rib cage meets the abs and where the abs meet the belt. Cobra Commander can kick up about that far. He does have the cool drop-down hips, as is typical for a G.I. Joe classified figure. And he has a thigh cut, which should, in theory, rotate all the way around, but the thigh cut is actually underneath the armor, you can see. So it will kind of bump into the armor a little bit when you try to rotate it all over. So it doesn't quite make it all the way around. I think if you forced it, you could probably get it to move all the way around if you wanted to, but I'm not going to bother with that. I think like just this much rotation is enough for me, because I kind of feel like your leg isn't going to really rotate around that much anyway. Like you can't really rotate your arm or rotate your leg 360 degrees. So to me, that's good enough. That's realistic movement. I'm fine with that. He's got double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get at the knees. And frankly, I'm surprised it's that good considering how he's wearing all this bulky armor. And then I didn't expect this when I was looking at it, because I was looking at his shin and I'm like, yep, that's just a straight shin. That's not going to have any kind of boot cut at all. But it actually does have a boot cut. And they did a really good job of hiding it in this seam right here. So it actually does rotate all the way around at the right above the ankle. So that's really cool. I'm really happy about that. That's awesome. They did a great job with that. And then Cobra Commander can point his foot down about that far, which is like prima ballerinas can't even do that. So good on him for that. And he can only point his foot up about that tall. Ironically, that ankle piece kind of gets in the way there. But you can't have it all, can you? You know, so even still, I feel like that's still a good range of motion at the ankle. So they did a good job with this guy. I'm happy with this guy. So anyway, let's go ahead and gear him up with some accessories. And he only has as a weapon the submachine gun, which is only intended to be held in one hand. So I don't feel too badly in taking off the other gripping hand, since he doesn't even have anything he can hold with that hand anyway, and replacing it with that pointing hand, because that's definitely what I'm going to want to have in our thumbnail picture. And then we can go ahead and put the submachine gun, machine pistol, whatever you want to call this thing. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. We can go ahead and put that into his other hand.
You cowards! You're supposed to be fighting men, so fight on! Cobra!
And then we can stick the backpack on there. The backpack seems like it goes on fairly firmly. It's not as firm as some other ones I've seen, but certainly not as loose as some other ones I've seen. So there he is, totally geared up with his wagging pointing finger and his submachine gun, and is probably not really a jetpack, although it does have little wings on it. I don't know how functional they are, but maybe they're supposed to be little blades, and like if somebody grabs him from behind, he can pop out these little blades and make stabby with them. So Anyway, great figure. I'm really happy with this one. And like I said, I know for a lot of people, this is not going to be your definitive version of Cobra Commander. You're probably going to want to prefer the faceplate version or even the hooded version that Hasbro, unfortunately, is very stubborn about making these days for reasons. But you know, if you could only get one Cobra Commander figure and it was this one, I think you could do a lot worse, honestly. I like this one better than the first classified Cobra Commander figure that they made. I'll say that much. Even if that one's closer to the classic look, you know, this is kind of a classic look on its own. And like I said, I really as a comic book fan, I really more associate this armor with Fred 7. But, you know, this isn't supposed to be Fred 7. This is supposed to be the original Cobra Commander. But that doesn't mean you can't use him as Fred 7. Or, you know, like Bobby Wall, to actually even find an unmasked head to use as Fred 7. I almost forgot, but he's got this holster over here that you can put the gun into. And it actually fits in there fairly well. It looks like it's a little too small to hold this gun, but it fits. And that's a pretty good design there, I think. And you could probably put a smaller gun into that holster if you wanted them to have a backup piece. So, but anyway, that's it for Cobra Commander. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Before I go, I do want to mention something tragic that happened within the past few days, which was Rob Reiner and his wife were murdered. Rob Reiner, the film director. And that was a dude who directed a lot of great movies, including one of my favorite movies of all time, The Princess Bride. And I've got like this whole stack of Princess Bride action figures here that I've been meaning to open for a long time anyway. So once I finish this stack of G.I. Joe figures that I got going on here, the basic G.I. Joe figures that I have, I've still got a Wetsuit and the Grim Viper and Mainframe. Once I do that, I think I'm going to start on these Princess Bride action figures because, you know, I can't do a whole lot in this world, but I can open up action figures. And I kind of figure the best way to remember an artist is to remember their art, you know? So, and this guy, he did, like I said, he did a lot of great movies. And this was one of my favorite movies of all time. And I've had these figures sitting over here to open up, but I think I've just been waiting for the right time to open them. And, you know, something like that makes me think, hey, maybe this is the right time to do that. So we can we can give a little bit of remembrance to a great filmmaker by remembering one of his best films. And what better way for me to do that than by opening up action figures based on said film. So we're gonna take a break from G.I. Joe after I open up these next three figures, and then we're gonna start on these. And of course, I've still got my Christmas figure to open up, which is a G.I. Joe figure. So we're gonna kind of play it by ear. I might wind up interrupting the interruption of G.I. Joe figures to open more G.I. Joe figures. But I've got four of these to open up. I've got the Dread Pirate Roberts, of course, Wesley. And I've got Princess Buttercup in her red outfit. And I've got Vizzini. And I've got Inigo Montoya, the bloody version of Inigo Montoya. And I've got Fezzik. So those are the ones that I have to open for that. So yeah, we'll open those up and talk a little bit about that movie while we do it. So, like I said, dude directed a lot of great movies. He directed This Is Spinal Tap and Stand By Me and A Few Good Men and Misery and like probably too many to go over right now. But The Princess Bride was definitely my favorite of his movies. So I'm looking forward to opening those up and having a little bit of tribute to a guy who did not deserve to go out like that. I don't think many people in this world deserve to go out like that. It's pretty sad and tragic, but you know, I prefer to celebrate those that we lose. That's how I tend to go with that. So we'll be celebrating that man's career as we open those up. And then I got more Ninja Turtles, of course, coming to open up. I got this Casey Jones figure that I've had for a little while, and I keep teasing it and being like, I got something special I'm gonna do when I open this guy up, but I need something else first. So and then I've got like another additional surprise. We got more Ninja Turtles, we got more Universal Monsters, we got more Masters of the Universe, and we got more DC superheroes. I got more Superman and Batman and other heroes. Hell, I got Dr. Midnight from Amazon the other day. And I got the 2-pack of Atom Smasher and the Spectre. So you know what that means? That means more Justice Society. And I love the Justice Society. So we just got so much cool stuff coming up to open up here on the channel. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Cobra Commander in his combat armor, not his battle armor. Don't get them confused. This is battle armor. This is combat armor. They're two completely different things. Because one of them you wear into battle, and the other one you wear into combat. So it's two completely different things. Don't get them confused. So let me know what you think about this figure. But definitely make sure that if you enjoyed this video that you like and subscribe. Even if you didn't enjoy this video, just like and subscribe. It's just a cool thing to do. So next episode... I'll be opening up Wetsuit, and we'll have some things to discuss with that figure. Wetsuit is another one where, like, he was kind of, I feel like, dicked over by the 25th anniversary line. Like, they only had Wetsuit as a figure that was in a multi-pack. One of those Cobra Island multi-packs. And even then, it was just a repaint of an unreleased Scuba Duke figure. They were going to make a Scuba version of Duke before they made Wetsuit in that line. I love the 25th anniversary line, but they certainly made some odd decisions with it. But yeah, we'll have Wetsuit to open up next. And then the so-called Grim Viper, and then Mainframe. Bobby Wald says, why do they make Wetsuit look like Shooter McGavin? I think the real question is, why does Shooter McGavin look like Wetsuit? Like, didn't he look like that on the cartoon? I want to say that this head sculpt, like, to me, looks like what he looked like on the cartoon. His hair is a little bit shorter, but that's what he looked like on the cartoon. That's what I remember him looking like on the cartoon. So go ahead and look up what he looked like on the Sumbo cartoon, and you tell me if you don't think that this one looks like that. But he's got that same sort of curly hair. If anything, like they gave him a little bit of a haircut. I remember his hair being like slightly a little more afro like on the cartoon. But he had that same sort of facial expression even. That's what I remember his face is looking like on the cartoon. And he was always arguing with Leatherneck. So I'll have to try to remember to grab the Leatherneck figure so I can have him for the unboxing, because, like, those two were definitely some characters that had some chemistry on that cartoon. Sometimes you get some characters together and they just play off of each other so well. And Wetsuit and Leatherneck were definitely in that sort of category. Like, you have your Alpine and Bazooka and that sort of thing. You're in the comic book, Clutch and Rock and Roll had sort of like this camaraderie like that. And then you have like Wetsuit and Leatherneck, who are just both constantly ripping on each other. But you could tell that, like, there was like a real friendship and a respect there, but they just like ragging on each other so much, which is one of the things that makes that friendship work, I think. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.